Wow, Alex, you got some news for us?
I guess I do. I just woke up this morning and I'm fully pregnant.
Oh my- You're just full, Alex. I don't see how that really makes any sense.
I know.
Counselor Troy will have her baby in about 36 hours.
News of an alien pregnancy alarms the crew.
Something which I can only describe as a presence entered my body.
Could this mysterious entity pose a deadly threat?
Destroy it now.
Diana Muldaur, Whoopi Goldberg join the crew of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Not really opened up with a bang. I'd say open up with well, let's just get this out of the way.
The bit of a whimper, yeah.
Yeah.
But going into the episode, a lot had changed from season one. I don't know how much time exactly was supposed to have passed, but we have Riker with a beard, Geordi now as chief engineer. Troy had a new uniform as well, and then above all else, Dr. Crusher is nowhere to be found, and we have Dr. Polanski, played by the returning Diana Muldaur.
Yes, who was in one of our favorite episodes from season 3, Is There No Truth in Beauty, and also a season 2 episode, Return to Tomorrow. Definitely one of those, like, looks familiar, and you called it. She definitely looks familiar, so huge credit for reusing classic Star Trek actors. I think that's amazing. But this episode was not.
What'd you think about all those other small changes? So I guess we can start with Geordi as an engineer.
I think it makes sense. I think that maybe in between seasons are like, we really didn't have like anything with engineering. I mean, there was a guy who was in some episodes, but I feel like we need like let's bring engineering back into the fold. Oh, Jordy can do that. We'll get just like classic TOS. We'll have just uh, someone in the chair sometimes. I mean, we'll have Wesley there. Sometimes we'll have Data there, but also it's a seat for anybody. Anybody can fill that seat sometimes. That's fine. But him and Worf are now in yellow. I don't think Worf was in yellow before.
Yeah, that's I guess another change I didn't mention that he's now. Well, this happened last season, but he became the security officer. But now it's kind of like full in force, and he's wearing yellow. His sash is a bit updated, and I think his hair's a little bit longer too from the first season.
Yeah, hair's a bit longer, head's a bit bigger, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
updated it a little bit.
Hmm.
Everything kind of feels just like a little bit updated, except for Picard. Just looks the same.
It still looks the same. Yeah.
With Jordy, I was hesitant at first when they first said it. I'm like, oh, so he's not gonna like be on the bridge anymore. Like I was a little disappointed, but now thinking about it, the first season he had some good moments, but he did more than anyone else kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit on the bridge. So maybe him having his own defined role will make him a little bit more like Scotty and TOS, kind of always be involved because you have to talk to the engineer for a lot of stuff.
Report, Mr. LaForge.
Captain, we've checked everything. There's no reason for this to be happening.
Yeah, and they're both very eccentric. If anyone can fill that Scotty-esque role, I think it's definitely Geordi, the engineering guy. Like I think he can fill that role and make it interesting because he's already interesting enough on its own. Kind of like how Scotty, even if he was an engineer, just him as anything would be entertaining. I think Geordi can be that.
I feel the same way about the new Doctor. Dr. Beverly Crusher was my favorite character of the first season. Her just seemingly being gone with, they did explain that she accepted another job basically is like, oh, that sucks. But Dr. Polanski being played by an actress from one of our favorite TOS episodes does kind of, put it on a good foot off the bat where it's like, okay, we'll see what happens. And so far in this episode, I feel like her timing and chemistry with everybody is fine. She doesn't seem like a sore thumb or anything. So I'm open to it, but big shoes to fill for sure.
Yeah, and they're trying to do like the whole Bones with Spock type thing with her in Data, which feels kind of weird.
My name. It is pronounced Data.
Oh?
You called me Data.
What's the difference?
And then she's like confused that he has emotions, which, to be fair, if she wasn't there, during the first season, I can understand he is the only android. Like it makes sense she'd be confused.
With all your neural nets, algorithms, and heuristics, is there some combination that makes up a circuit for bruised feelings?
I mean, not everyone has encountered this, mainly our crew, so not everyone has experience with the Enterprise experience, but the vast amount of weird shit that exists in the universe that somehow an android makes people, oh, what? Like, there's been Greek gods, there's been all these weird different species, cloud monsters, doomsday machines, but it's like a robot. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone knows what happened with the Enterprise, or even stuff that happened last season, but it's like, come on, come on.
So then we get told that they're bringing aboard very deadly, dangerous cargo, which Geordi now, as the engineer, is going to kind of trap and keep quarantined. So that's kind of like our setup for the episode. But then we have this blink of light. It reminded me of like when I play with a red dot laser pointer with my cat. Comes onto the Enterprise and is flying around. We get like a nice, cool shot.
Yeah, it's like floating through the decks. It follows these two guys in this nice little drone shot, and then it finds Counselor Troy and gets her pregnant.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure exactly when they portrayed it in that scene what that meant, but she confirms it shortly after, and it's kind of like, oh, that's weird, which kind of defines this whole episode.
Yeah, it gave me like Alien Prometheus vibes, where it's like I thought like it was gonna get really, really gross for a second, like chest, like this thing was gonna burst out of her. But no, but then we saw like a new aspect of Troy's abilities that I wish was explored upon more or used more.
Deny us the opportunity to study it.
If the fetus is aborted, laboratory analysis is still possible.
If every time she uses her powers, do we get like a scene like that? That'd be neat.
So it's kind of like Spidey sense, right? It's like, do you do the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spidey sense where you zoom really far in, or is it the Tom Holland more kind of like reserved version? It's interesting to see that.
Yeah, or like Charlie Cox's Daredevil, like listening in on camera and everything just zoomed. Like that'd be neat if like more episodes from her perspective, but you can't do that every time. But
Yeah, and I would think that it would get overdone if they did it like every single time.
Yeah.
But if they just remind us once in a while, I think that's a nice visual trick to do.
yeah, but unfortunately, I think it's just because of this thing, and that's it.
Yeah, because she was connecting with something inside of her, seemingly.
Yeah, but we got to talk about like in terms of like A and B plot, like both of them were just like very, very minimal to the point where it's like the episode was about 40 minutes in, and I'm like, okay, wow, this has been going on for a while. Thinking we were only like 20 minutes in, and then it ended. I'm like, oh, it's over.
I think that this episode was very lucky that it was the first of the season because I was excited to get back into it.
Mhm.
What are the characters up to? How are they different? And the story being so weak and uninteresting, it was okay because I'm kind of like just excited to get started into the season. And if I had been watching this on TV as it debuted, it probably would have been the same thing where it's like, Star Trek's coming back on. It's the new season. Okay, that story wasn't great, but Star Trek's back.
Exactly. Yeah, just something to be like, well, we can get this out of the way. People are going to be excited, hopefully, because I don't know. People talk about season one being. I'm just wondering what were people excited for season two after season one came out? Maybe someone can tell us that because the way people talk about these two seasons, it's like, but that in between season one and two, I'm just wondering, were people like, well, that wasn't good. I'm surprised there is a season two, and were they even like after this episode, where it's like, oh, it's even worse.
One peculiar thing about the pregnancy is that not only is it an immaculate conception, but it is sped up for basically because of the purpose of the plot and needing to get through it. It seems like she gets her whole pregnancy is within one day, and then she gives birth.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that entertaining if it was just a small baby the entire time. But unlike Spock in Star Trek 3, it's pretty cognizant. It's like able to like understand things, and like frustratingly at the end it like knows what it is. Where like Picard's like, "Why are you here?" And like at first it plays dumb.
I think the captain wants to know if you're ready to tell us why you came here.
No. Not yet.
It's like, what? It knows what's going on. So I thought it was genuinely. I thought like that entity was just like concepting, but no, the entity is literally. It went inside and came out as itself in human form.
Yeah, but with the full DNA of Deanna, which was interesting.
Yeah.
And then the whole storyline during her labor of like, oh, it's a very easy birth. It all just seemed like it was written so that they didn't have to bother with it, with the whole pregnancy aspect. Like, oh, well, we have to have Troy give birth to this baby, but well, we don't want to deal with any of that. So just make the pregnancy last a day and it doesn't really hurt and it's really quick and fine, so we can get on with the story.
Yeah, and the kid like wasn't like a problem at all. Like it didn't cause any conflict at all. It was the only conflict was that it caused these other things in the cargo hold to start expanding to a dangerous amount through dialogue.
Radiation, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't see any of this happening. I'm not saying we need to see everything that happens. I understand, but like no sense of like urgency, really. It was just like all stated matter of fact.
It was just an unfortunate happenstance that they were delivering this cargo. If the cargo wasn't a part of it, seemingly this being could have continued to live on throughout its life and eventually die, seemingly within a week or so. But it just happened to discover them while they're taking on this cargo that it's interfering with. It all just felt very convenient.
Riker immediately assumed that Diana had sex with someone yesterday and got pregnant.
I don't mean to be indelicate, but who's the father?
I'm glad they're keeping that just very little, very little. It's not explored for the rest of the episode. In fact, he seems quite happy to see her with a baby.
Yeah, it was nice that it was in there for that one moment just to like remind you, and
Yeah.
then they didn't have to be overboard or anything. Like, so that was nice. With Geordi in engineering, they didn't just get rid of everybody else. There was a recurring character who we saw from the first season still in engineering.
O'Brien. He didn't write a letter talking about himself. He just, he probably got the casting call and just went back to work. Sorry, Biffy.
Yeah, so it's cool to see that engineering's still going to be a department, not just replace the department with it being Geordi. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, or a consistent department, not just rotating different people every episode. It's nice to see a couple constants in there, because in a shift of people, there's going to be recurring shifts. It's not just different people every single time. So it's nice to see some recurring faces that makes sense, because yeah, they work there.
And even more world building per se of the Enterprise. We get to see that the Enterprise has a daycare with someone on the Enterprise whose job is just to be a daycare person. It's not like a big deal to the episode, but I always like when we get to see a little bit more, new rooms of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, some of these people are going to have kids, and I'm sure they don't want to leave their kids on Earth for 5-6 years. I mean, Wesley's there. I mean, we should know this, but like the other people probably have kids there. I mean, a daycare on Earth for 5 years. You know how much that's going to cost?
And then we also got to see a new piece of the Enterprise with a new character. Whoopi Goldberg introduced to the show in this bar type room.
Yeah, the 10 Forward bar, which I've heard about before.
I was aware Whoopi Goldberg's in the show just through like seeing images of the show. I didn't know if she showed up in season 2 or in season 7. I don't know how many episodes she's in, how big of a deal she is. It was a guest starring credit in this episode, and so was the Doctor, Dr. Polanski. So I don't know what that means in terms of how many episodes they're in. It's a little bit weird because with everyone else, besides Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, I know them kind of from other stuff, but for the most part, everyone in the show, I've been very easily able to relate to their character and just imagine them as the character. Whoopi Goldberg should be a little bit tougher, but I did think that overall in this first appearance, her chemistry and everything was with Wesley was good.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best scene.
I mean, when you look out there, don't you see your future?
It was a nice little scene.
And him being like, well, my mom wants me to be with her. And she's like, sometimes you got to make decisions for yourself. So it was a nice little mentor moment. And just the idea of a bartender character it's pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And if they can get me to forget that it's Whoopi Goldberg and just accept it as this character.
Yeah, that's going to take time. You know what I mean? I'm sure it was easier for people back then.
And for people like confused by that, like, oh, why is Whoopi Goldberg such a big deal? I guess it's just because like she's still famous today. Like, so is Patrick Stewart, obviously, but Patrick Stewart is like the star of the show. It's like, imagine if all of a sudden a small role was just played by like Kurt Russell. Like, it'd be like, oh, that's weird. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it feels, because she's not like the star. She's just in the show randomly. So that's why it's a little bit different for me.
And like in The Sopranos, they didn't have like a lot of like guest stars with big name actors. Could you go, oh, that's so and so?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you're gonna guest star in this role in this show, you're gonna be yourself, because you're gonna take people out of it.
Yeah, it's not like I'm saying I'm the biggest Whoopi Goldberg fan or anything. I'm not super familiar with all of her work, but like, yeah, it is just she's a current celebrity, so it's kind of weird.
I guess you're just gonna have to change your view.
So then this dangerous cargo that they have on board starts freaking out. They're afraid it's going to contaminate, and the Doctor says at one point that even if the most innocuous part of the cargo gets out, it will destroy everything on the Enterprise. But then they like pretty easily solve the problem before it's even solved, when Riker says, oh, well, if it does get out, we'll just separate the ship and put this on the part of the ship with no one else on it. So even before we got the resolution, it was already like, oh, I guess this isn't that big of a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the ship would still be damaged. I'm like, oh, that sucks, but all that's fine because the kid just dies.
Yeah.
I have to leave you now, or it'll be very bad for everyone.
What are you saying?
And at first, like, it was almost going to be like a good emotional scene because the kid's like, oh, I have to go. And then it cuts to Troy, and she's having this emotional. I thought she's like, I have this. I finally have a kid. Oh my God, I'm about to lose it. And I thought it was just like, oh, I'm about to lose you. But no, it's because the kid literally dies, but it doesn't show the kid's face when it dies. So you're like, wait, it died?
I'm sorry.
And I thought he just meant physically he's gonna somehow sacrifice himself and leave the ship.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then no, and all of a sudden she's like, I need the doctor here, and he's just passed out dead. I was like, this is not good. I have to though compliment Marina Sirtis. Her acting even in this scene is like spot on, and it's still. I mean, she's like crying immediately. Like she must be one of those actors that can just immediately cry whenever they need to.
Yeah, give her the emotional scene. She'll nail it. And credit to her.
So good job as an actor, but as a character, I felt bad for Troy. Her whole, once again we get a Troy focused episode, which is good. That's always good to see of a side character getting focused on, but it's only just to traumatize her, make her become a mother and lose her kid in the same week.
Yeah, oh, she can handle it. But it's like it's like we have two options for you. We're either going to emotionally destroy you, Troy, or we're going to ask you a couple questions about a possible threat, and then that's it. Like I feel like the middle ground is very tough for Troy.
And also this being just having the ability to, um, you know, essentially kill itself, and then just like turn back into its original form. I guess it just has that power. It didn't have to do anything to die. It just died. Deanna kind of like communicates with it by holding it in her hands. And then it's just like, oh, I now have all the exposition to give.
He was curious about us. So he decided the best way to learn, to live as one of us, and in that way to understand us.
Which I thought what she explained what it was actually a very interesting idea for a actual character in the show, like an alien being that discovers humans and is like, oh, I want to see what that's like, and becomes a human, and then lives the life of a human, even if it's accelerated. That'd be a cool idea for an episode or a character arc, but unfortunately, it doesn't even get to do that, so we're just left with this idea.
They have a similar character like that already.
With Data?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what interests me more is the idea of an already living being deciding to experience the human experience.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good episode to be featured with Data, where these two characters talk about humanity together and are both like clueless about it. I think there's a fun option there, where it's like, or maybe similar to Data Lore, where like this thing comes along and like accustoms to humans much faster, and Data's like I don't get. Like, how is this thing better than me already?
And then the last element of the episode and how it ends is Wesley's been having this back and forth dilemma within himself of should I leave the Enterprise to join my mom in her new job or stay here? And he ultimately decides to stay on the Enterprise.
I will abide by her wishes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I know she'll agree.
Well, I think they picked the wrong character to do that with. As if, it was a beloved character leaving or possibly leaving. And instead they just booted one off screen. I miss Gates McFadden. Like I hope she comes back. I mean, the fact that they mentioned her gives me hope. But it's like it almost feels like a double blow to have a character die, towards the end of last season, and then one just not be here at all in the beginning of this one. It's like, yeah, I don't care if Wesley stays or goes, man.
Yeah. Gates McFadden not being in the credits makes me think she's not in the season. With that being said, we're going to get a YouTube comment that says, she'll return in episode 9 or whatever episode she's in. So I'm looking forward to that being spoiled. I didn't mind Will Wheaton's acting in this. I'm not going to say he was the best actor, but his acting throughout this whole story of navigating what he wants to do I thought was fine. And then at the end, he gives the most like wooden delivery when Picard's like, I'm going to honor your mom's wishes. And he's like, I know, she'll be okay with it. Like it was like, it's like, what happened? You regressed completely.
It's like you were right there with Whoopi Goldberg, just giving like great stuff, and then you just went.
Unfortunate. So we'll see where that goes. But that's the end of the episode. And besides Picard, kind of conversing with Wesley and like having a few conversations with the other characters, he was the most in the background this episode. He didn't really actively do anything.
This is probably one of the ones where later on I'm gonna forget this episode ever existed.
Oh yeah.
Like it just happened. Like I don't like anything about it. I like some things about it, but
yeah, I think this is what to me made me realize I love this show and can watch it. If we weren't doing it for the channel, I would binge it because even an episode as weak as this, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching it and just wanted to watch more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, always. I love to see it. No matter how weak the plot is, there's always going to be something There's always going to be something, a conversation between two characters, a cool shot. There's always something where it's like, well, they tried there.
And Mr. Crusher, engage.
But with that being said, I'm very curious what our patrons have to say.
Oh no!
So we're so we're gonna jump into our patron takes, where they let us know what they think of the episode, ask us questions about it, or predict how we're gonna feel about it. I know there's a lot of them on this season premiere episode, so you can check out all of those over on our Patreon. But we're gonna jump in. This one's from Scarpad's Domain. Yeah, after how they reacted to Tasha, who, let's be honest, was dispensable, I predict much hate. Plus the fact this episode blows, especially as a premiere, and they hate kids. The fact this is a repurposed Phase 2 script due to the writer's strike didn't help. I expected some writer's strike comments. I know that there was a writer's strike at some point during the production of this season. I don't know how much we'll be able to tell with the episodes, but yeah, the hating kids part didn't really get to me because it's just one kid and he's like such a non-factor, you know. Then the kid's performance wasn't like terrible, so it was just like there. So I mean that part didn't really bother me. I don't know why he brought up Tasha. I'm guessing because Dr. Crusher's gone. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think people love Gates McFadden as much as we do. So I think they're similar to Tasha. They felt like indifferent, maybe. I don't.
How? I'm shocked by that if that's true.
I don't know. This one's from Brendan Waldron. I love that after the chief engineer came to the bridge to take his job in Arsenal of Freedom, Jordy not only told him what to do with himself, but he went to engineering and took his damn job too. There we go, Jordy.
That's pretty funny. The ultimate revenge. So here's some insider info, it sounds like.
Okay.
From Philip Grisha. According to Gates McFadden, she was fired because some of the writers, including co-executive producer Maurice Hurley, didn't like that she often criticized the writing of the first season and suggested changes. She was considered to be difficult. She had an extensive theater and teaching background and was used to collaborative environments and found out the hard way that a Hollywood TV set wasn't that kind of environment. So I'm just so confused, man. So she was fired. That's quite a blow.
Yeah, it sucks. And, you know, like, actors, you know, like, criticizing her, it's like I sent you a video of, like, Ethan Hawke, right? That's his name? Yeah, him talking about this. Like, TV is very, like, you know, show, 2 takes, go, go, go. It's very blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think at movie sets, you have a little bit more time, get to know the director. I mean, like, TV directors seem like they're just hired hands a lot of the times. Like, oh, so-and-so come and direct this episode, blah, blah, blah. It's like 2 takes, we gotta go. So, an actor, like, wanting to, like, settle into a scene maybe, or, like, ask questions like, oh, why would I say this? It's like, shut up, do your job. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I want to, like, serve the scene the best I can for my character, logically. So, maybe she did that to the point where it's like, okay, you're done. That's it. I get both sides where it's like, okay, I'm just here to do a job, but also I want it to be the best that it can be, which sucks because I feel like Gates McFadden would be the one to, like, I don't know her personally or haven't seen her much outside of this, this show.
I mean,
but
she was like debatably the best actor in the first season.
Yeah, I guess that just sucks about TV because I've heard it's just you can't just sit and like, well, what if my character, it's like we don't have time to rewrite this.
Yeah.
It's written. We got to do this. Well, what if I played it like? Nope. Well, that sucks. This one made me laugh, so this one's from no one. Dr. Crusher is gone. Boo. She left Wesley behind. Boo. But she's replaced with a character played by an actress from one of your favorite TOS episodes. Is there no truth in beauty? Yay. But she's kind of rude and friendly. Boo. But Frick has his beard now. Yay. Also a new bar, Whoopi Goldberg too. Yay. Warfringe already promotions. Yay. Also, the episode just kind of sucks. Boo. Welcome to season 2. That might be my favorite.
Yeah, that does kind of sum up how I felt about it for sure.
All right, this one's from Michael. Season 2's in some ways worse than season 1. While there are a few classics mixed in there, there's also a lot of bad, with this episode being one of the worst. Oh, and I hate Pulaski with a passion.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, wow. I mean, I wouldn't say I hate her, but, the charmfulness of Bones and, picking on Vulcans didn't come across here with her and Geordi. in my opinion. It's like, whoa, like someone making like an offensive comment, everyone goes, oh.
Yeah.
Like I never felt that way with Bones really when he said something about Spock. I felt a lot more charmful back then, but just the comment she made like about an android, like whoa, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, I have nothing against her yet. We'll see how the season plays out. I'm trying to keep an open mind. Like I said, obviously she has a good head start from me liking her characters and her performances before. But yeah, we'll see. And Nerds Gold says, another episode that I probably have never seen twice. All I remember about it is cringing.
Well, if there's any take to end this video on, I think it's that one because, like I said, I'll probably even like rewatching like for the end of season 2 discussion. Like this is not going to be anywhere near that top 5.
Hopefully.
Honorable mention. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. I mean, I saw some people say that this is one of the worst, but yeah, the way people are talking about the rest of this season, I'm a little scared.
Well, we shall see.